Hello random people on the internet, my name is Banana, and today I predicted the future in Hypixel Skyblock. So there I was, streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/menacing_banana by the way, and I was talking about fishing, because I'm currently fishing 24, almost 25, I'm going for 26, so I can get the soul whip and grind ghosts, and I said this. Watch, I'm going to hit fishing 26, and they're just going to randomly put out a patch that no one expects, and it's going to be patch the soul whip working on ghosts, and I'm going to just fight every admin. I'm going to fist fight them. Literally a couple hours after I am done streaming, I'm chilling downstairs. I come up and everyone's like, oh my gosh, Banana, did you see the announcement of the patch notes that they're doing? And I said, what? And literally, I'm going to fight every admin. So yeah, Jay of Armin did come out and say that they are coming with some balancing changes in Skyblock, which is unheard of because this game is not balanced ever. And one of the changes was that they were going to make the soul whip not work on ghosts. Thankfully, they're getting rid of that change, and I'm so happy there. I cannot believe that literally the day I say something like that, they do it. But they also have a lot of other gear changes. So today we are going to go over a bunch of these and just talk about them as a whole, because I think that there are a lot of people that hate this update that they're planning, and then some people enjoy it a little bit, and I feel like it's definitely necessary to balance the game, but some of these changes are harsh. They are tough, and we're just going to talk about all of those today. So first, we're going to look at some gear changes, and there is a lot of these, and it's mainly targeting some of the weapons that Dungeons players have been using. Looking at Bone Meringues, Hyperion, Last Breath, there are a lot of weapons that are really, really good in Dungeons, and they are tuning them down a lot. Firstly, they nerfed the Bone Meringue. This nerf isn't too bad. I think the Bone Meringue will still definitely be relevant in Dungeons, because they're nerfing the damage from 320 base to 270. That's really not a huge change, but then they are nerfing / buffing Last Breath. Last Breath is pretty much a bow that people only use for its passive, which is removing a bunch of defense, because if you shot them twice, I believe that it would just get rid of all of the enemy's defense pretty much. And they have changed that. They're nerfing it to where it only removes 10% of the defense per hit, up to 50% reduction max. So this is still going to be usable, and it's still going to make a bunch of enemies take a bunch more damage, but that ability is going down. They are buffing it up a little bit by giving it damage and adding critical damage onto it to make it usable as an actual bow, but that's still for sure going to hurt the numbers as a whole. Mosquito Bow is also getting a nice buff. It's actually pretty good to see Mosquito Bow getting some love, because that bow sucks. It's getting a 50 strength buff and a 30 crit damage buff, so we'll see how that ends up turning out. Now let's go on to swords, because they are hurting a lot of swords, mainly Hyperion. So Valkyrie is getting a buff of 20 extra strength on it. Astria is getting a buff of 10 extra damage and 40 extra defense, 20 true defense, and 1 more defense per Catacombs level. So Astria is getting a pretty nice buff to make it more of a tank-worthy sword. They're buffing the Scylla base damage to 270, and they're nerfing the Hyperion intelligence from 350 or from 400 to 350. So that's not going to affect Hyperion that much. It's definitely going to be a little bit of a damage change here, but Hyperion has some of the highest damage in the game, so you really don't have to worry about it. 350, not a huge nerf there. It's also getting changed to be 1 damage per Catacombs level. Apparently it's bugged right now to where it's 2. I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently it is, and that's getting nerfed down. But the biggest change with Hyperion is the fact that the Wither Impact ability is getting nerfed from a range of 10 blocks to 6 blocks. This is huge. This has so many people up in arms about Hyperion, because Hyperion's one of the main things about it is its range is really good. You look at some people doing Necron. I'm going to have a clip right here of me doing it. I am using Hyperion from the outside ring of the middle in the Necron fight, and I am damaging him. But that block range is actually 8 from what I have heard. And you probably won't be able to hit him with Hyperion anymore, because you can't stand close enough to him, and now you don't have the range to do it. So it is a big nerf to put it down to 6. I think Hyperion has been in one of the weirdest spots in the game because it is by far the best weapon in the game right now. Like, if you want to kill anything that can take magic damage, Hyperion is the strategy to do it. You can literally just murder anything. Like, I'm combat 35, and if I take out a Headless Horseman boss, I can literally spawn him in and just Hyperion the ground a couple times and he's dead. And I'm a complete noob. That guy just got murked. And this is just because of the OP ability on this sword. So getting it nerfed is definitely helpful for balancing the game, but for people who are used to doing dungeons with Hyperion, clearing rooms is going to be way harder with this thing. I think that we need to see the new Hyperion in action with its 6 blocks radius to see really how good it is. And if it's definitely still going to be usable, but it's going to be way worse if I had to guess. And that's probably the biggest nerf that they have in here. The Midas Staff is also getting a nerf. They're nerfing the base damage at 0 coins from 16,000 to 6,000. It still has the same scaling upwards. It's just the fact that the base Midas Staff was a bit too good, and I can't agree with that. When I restarted on this profile, I bought the cheapest Midas Staff I could find, and it was definitely still just destroying guys left and right. So nerfing that down makes sense. It's still going to be just as good at the upper end, so don't really worry about that. Dark goggles, shadow goggles, wither goggles, they are also getting changed, and this could be a pretty big change because right now it's basically multiplying your damage by an extra like 1.6x with dark goggles, and I think it's 1.7x with wither goggles whenever you're fighting an undead thing. And they're making that additive. That seems to be a big just theme whenever they nerf something, because for some reason, whenever they introduce an item into the game, they say, oh, multiplicative will be fine. And then they realize that they have made a grave mistake. So they're nerfing those down. So mages are getting hit pretty hard. And I think I can understand mages getting hit hard. Mages do crazy damage in any situation where a mage is allowed to do crazy damage. But the fact is, they haven't been giving mages much leeway outside of dungeons. Mages literally can't do Rev Tier 5s. They can't do a lot of things in the game that are getting added because literally they don't take any magic damage. And I think if you're going to be nerfing down Hyperion, if you're going to try and put it on par with other weapons, let us use Hyperion to do other things in the game. Let Hyperion get combat XP, because although people are saying that it got fixed and that Hyperion now gives combat XP for every couple kills, it has always done that. Hyperion has always been able to give a little bit of combat XP, and it doesn't give any bestiary, like, ever. So Hyperion is in a spot now where they're nerfing it down to be more on par with normal weapons, but they're not giving it the ability to get combat XP, to get a bunch of other things in the game just because it's Hyperion and because it's really good. So I think if they're changing this, they have to change that as well. Some buffs that are coming out are actually pretty big. They're changing the rarity of a bunch of items. One of those is the Wither Relic. They're also changing the rarity of the Silk Edge, the Reaper Mask, and I think the biggest one is Frozen Blaze, because Frozen Blaze gets buffed by its reforges, obviously, when you have the Blaze pet, and Legendary from Epic is a pretty big change in reforges. That means you're going to be able to have Mythic Frozen Blaze armor, which is going to have some pretty good stats, so look out for some Frozen Blaze users in the future. I don't think it'll be better than Shadow Assassin and Necron still, but it's going to be more usable than it has been, because Frozen Blaze hasn't ever really been the top tier armor, and now it's going to be a little bit better. Last change in this section is about the Tarantula Helmet. I feel like this change is a couple months too late because the Tarantula Helmet hasn't really been relevant for a while, especially since Revenant Tier 5, because the Warden Helmet is now in the game. The Warden Helmet is pretty much doing everything that the Tarantula Helmet used to do when it comes to just smoking every mob, but the Tarantula Helmet is getting a cap at 1000 strength, which is giving you 100 crit damage, because people in dungeons were cracked out with the Tarantula Helmet, but that's literally irrelevant because the Warden Helmet is just better at this point. The Skeleton Pet is getting a change in its perk, where now it is having a 5-second cooldown, but it's also dealing half of this original damage. I don't know how good that will make it, because, I mean, you're putting it out like 3 times as fast, and you're doing half the damage. So math-wise, within the same time period, you should be able to do more. So we'll see how that ends up going, but that's the skeleton pet change. They're also nerfing the tiger pet. The tiger pet has been one of the best pets in the game for a while, and they are buffing the ferocity from 10 to 25 from it, but now they are nerfing the perk, where right now the legendary tiger gets 100% extra ferocity for your entire character whenever you have it at level 100. It is getting nerfed to 50% more ferocity. So that is a very large nerf to the tiger pet. They consider that the tiger pet was in an overpowered position because it acted as an additional buff on top of already strong ferocity items, and it became better than other pets like Ender Dragon or Golem for damage. They want to keep it useful, but they don't want it being the be-all, end-all pet for endgame players because they think it's a little bit too cheap to justify it being as good as it was. The last pet that is getting changed is the lion pet, and it's getting a pretty big rework. They're adding 5 ferocity to it as a base stat, and then they're changing first pounce to now buff your first strike or triple strike or combo by 100%. So that could end up being pretty sizable damage in the long run, and they're also changing the last perk to be gain 15% more damage to mobs who have attacked you instead of mobs who are under level 50, because they thought that this pet was underwhelming damage wise and that they were only using it for the first hit bonus. So now that last perk is going to be useful, and that other perk is a bit less niche because first strike pretty irrelevant. But if you're using something like triple strike on mobs that you're going to 3-tap, you're going to be dealing a sizable amount of damage to them now. So that's going to be pretty sick. Next up, let's talk about some changes that I hate. I do not enjoy the changes that they're talking about in this section, and those changes are to bosses and how you deal damage to them. So it has been a problem recently that people are one-shotting dragons. People are just murking them by literally just throwing bones at them, or there's so many different methods of doing damage by just like swapping with a bajillion weapons and magma bow, and just all the things get swapped and they one-shot a dragon, and that's not fun for anyone. It is not entertaining to just not actually get to fight the boss that gets spawned in. But rather than fixing swapping, they're changing how damage is dealt to bosses in general. And honestly, I think it's a pretty weird system. Currently in the game, they have it so after X amount of damage, players only deal 10% of their remaining damage. And they're changing this mechanic on Arachne, the Magma Boss, the Ender Dragon, the Endstone Protector, and the Headless Horseman. Now, they're adding a hard damage cap on these bosses. You can see that they're having a bunch of percentages that are affecting the amount of damage that you do. If you are dealing like between 0.6 and 0.8%, it's reduced by 99%, blah, blah, blah. But damage above 1% of these bosses' health is reduced by 100%. So, 1% of the boss's health. That is not that much health. That is literally, they have an example below where they're talking about a superior dragon. So if you deal anything more than 120,000 damage, who cares? You don't actually deal that. You're lying, because they're just making it so you can't deal more than 120,000 damage on a superior dragon. So even if you deal 27 million damage in one bow shot, they don't care, because now you're only dealing 120k. I think this is a harsh change, because you're going from having people one-shot bosses to literally forcing an entire lobby to 100-shot a boss. You can't kill a boss any faster than that, as far as I can tell right now. And that just sounds disgusting to me. I understand not wanting players to one-shot bosses. One-shotting bosses is not fun for anyone, as I said, but I feel like there was so much better ways to fix this than to just cap it that hard. 1% of the health? That is crazy. That is something that they have decided to do. We'll have to see how that plays out, because that's going for every boss in the game pretty much right now, every public boss at least. And that's going to be really weird to deal with. So that is something that's happening. I got 3 more general things to talk about, and then we will be done, because I know this video is getting a little bit long, but there was a lot of suggested changes. The next change that I'm talking about is related to the Catacombs. They are adding a Catacombs level requirement on every floor. It's going to be level 1 for floor 1, 3 for 2, 5 for 3, 9 for 4, 16 for 5, 21 for 6, and for floor 7 you need Catacombs level 26. This is cracking down on the carrying services that are pretty much getting noobs to have the ability to buy a lot of stuff, and it's also going to help assist against like IRL traders and stuff who don't have any Catacombs level at all but are going and buying a Hyperion. This is nice overall. They're also changing a lot of the essence requirements and costs and a lot of stuff. I'm not going to go over all those because there's a lot of stuff in that thing, but you can check out the forum post down below in the description. Next, pretty big change. They're nerfing the hell out of Lifesteal. Lifesteal and Siphon are considered some of the best enchants in the game, and if we look at them, you can obviously see why. If I can find them, where are they? Where is Lifesteal and Siphon? Come on, game, come on. Alright, so Siphon heals you for 0.2% of the damage you deal on critical hits, 0.4 if you have Siphon 3. That's really good in itself, and Lifesteal heals you for 0.3% of damage you deal to mobs. So this is very good, obviously, but they're nerfing the heck out of that because Lifesteal's now only healing 0.5% of your maximum health per hit per level. So yikes, that is not going to be that good. That is 2% of your maximum health per hit. That is a huge, huge, huge nerf to healing, guys. I want to emphasize this. Healing is getting absolutely cinnamon toast fucked here by the admins. We're going to see how that goes. Luckily, a lot of people when in the Catacombs don't really heal via left click. They heal via something like the Wither Shield, but they're just going to end up nerfing that or something too. But those are some crazy nerfs there. Last things, they have some just general changes, and it's pretty much related around just nerfing some stuff in floor 7, such as the Goblin Armor Invincibility with Wither Cloak. Switching armor sets in dungeons is getting nerfed because they're making mana above your maximum mana get removed. So I don't really understand what the point of a mana potion is now if we go and look at that, because mana potions literally, do I even have that unlocked? I don't have it unlocked. The mana potion would give you mana above your normal mana, but now that just does nothing. Now you just use it to regen mana a little bit, I guess. But armor swapping is getting a little bit screwed over in dungeons there. And they're also removing some AFK methods on normal islands. So you already know what that means. I am quitting the game because I'm the #1 Goblin AFKer in the game. If you guys didn't know, I am a grinder. I have 6 million Goblin kills totally. And if I can't kill them, I don't know what I'm doing. There's a couple more changes in there, but none of them are too significant to talk about. And that's going to be it. That's going to be all for these balance changes that I wanted to say. J of Armin apparently did make a comment in there talking about how they want to buff Catacombs XP from every floor except 7. I don't really understand that because it has been months and months and no one is Catacombs 50. So I don't get why you wouldn't buff 7 as well. But that's good for early game dungeon players who can't do floor 7 right now, because buffing those floors going to be pretty sick. And yeah, I hope that this video has kept you informed on what you need to know for the upcoming patches in Hypixel Skyblock. Remember that none of this is set in stone yet. None of it is in the game yet. If you're going to riot, please don't riot in my comments. Go riot in the forum post or something, because a lot of these changes can be very controversial. You look at the Hyperion changes, the Bone Meringue changes, the damage on bosses. They're all pretty big, huge, drastic changes that they're making to the game, and I would bet that they're going to have some pretty harsh reactions to it, especially at the start here. So let me know what you think down below. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, and that's going to be all. I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace out.